Hello. I'm Sally, your host. Welcome to the third board, my master's chess channel. Here I will show you and comment on games from great masters of the past. For today's video, my master chose an instructive game of the Soviet-Russian Grandmaster, Boris Spassky, played in 1961, Moscow, Soviet Union. Spassky became the 10th world champion in 1969. His opponent in today's game was Yuri Averbakh, another Soviet-Russian Grandmaster. Averbakh qualified for the 1953 Candidates Tournament, and won the Soviet Union Championship in 1954. He also participated in the 1958 Interzonal Tournament of Porto Rose. But he is probably more famous as a chess journalist and author. He published more than 100 endgame studies, and from 1956 to 1962, edited with others an anthology on the endgame, translated to English as Comprehensive Chess Endings. Well, let's begin. Yuri Averbakh has white and starts with pawn to e4. Boris Spassky responds with pawn to c5. The Sicilian defense characteristic move. And the opening continues. Knight to f3. d6. d4. C takes on d4. Knight takes on d4. Knight to f6. Knight to c3. e6. And we have on this board, the Sicilian defense, Scheveningen variation, named after the Dutch town with the same name, according to Wikipedia. From this position, main variations for white are g4, the Keres attack. Bishop to e3, the English attack. Bishop to c4, the Sosen-Fischer attack. Pawn to f4, the tall variation. And bishop to e2, the classical variation, also known as Maroksa variation. And this was the move chosen by Averbakh in this game. Black continues with a6. Castles. Queen to c7. f4. Knight from b to d7. King to h1. b5. Threatening pawn to b4, expelling the e4 defender. Bishop to f3. Defending the pawn, and threatening to play e5, attacking the f6 knight and the a8 rook. Black responds with bishop to b7. Developing the bishop, and defending the rook. After this move, best continuations for white according to Stockfish are queen to e1. And rook to e1. Both moves reinforce the e4 pawn. Let's see one possible, and risky variation after rook to e1. Rook to c8. Knight to d5. sacrificing the knight. Pawn takes knight. E takes on d5 check. King to d8. The best move. Blocking the check with bishop to e7 instead would be a mistake. The game could continue like this. Knight to f5. Knight to g8. Queen to d4. Knight from d to f6. Rook takes bishop check. Knight takes rook. Knight takes on g7 check. And white would be better. Let's return to this variation's main line. After king to d8, the continuation is a4, b4, knight to c6 check, bishop takes on c6, d takes on c6, knight to b8, bishop to e3. And according to the wise fish, the game would be slightly better for white. In the actual game, Averbakh chose another line. The game continues. a3. Avoiding b5. Rook to c8. Queen to e1. White threatens pawn to e5. If black ignores this threat and plays now something like pawn to h6, one possible continuation is e5. D takes on e5. F takes on e5. The black queen has to defend the b7 bishop, and cannot take the e5 pawn. Black plays. Bishop takes bishop. Knight takes bishop. Knight to g8, or h7. And according to Stockfish, white would be slightly better. Let's return to the game. After queen to e1, black plays bishop to a8, freeing the black queen. Bishop to e3. According to Stockfish, instead of this move, other good moves were bishop to d2 and queen to g3, putting pressure on the g7 pawn. Let's see one possible continuation after queen to g3. The game could have continued like this. Bishop to e7. Offering the pawn. Queen takes on g7. Rook to g8. Queen to h6. Knight to g4. Bishop takes on g4. Rook takes on g4. Queen takes on h7. Knight to f6. Queen to h3. Queen to c4. Threatening the rook and the knight. And according to Master Fish, the position would be equal. Let's return to the game. After bishop to e3, black continues with bishop to e7, Rook to d1. Castles. e5. Instead of pawn to e5, other good options for white were bishop to c1, pawn to g4, and queen to g3. Let's see one possible, and sharp continuation after bishop to c1. Queen to b8. Opening the c file, and allowing the rook to target the c3 knight. g4. Rook takes on c3. Queen takes on c3. Knight takes on e4. Queen to e3. d5. Bishop takes on e4. D takes on e4. Knight takes on e6. F takes on e6. Rook takes on d7. Bishop to f6. King to g1. Queen to c8. And according to the wise fish, the position would be equal. Let's return to the original position. If white had chosen pawn to g4, the game could have continued like this. Knight to c5, threatening the e4 pawn. Bishop to c1, defending the pawn. Knight from f to d7. In anticipation of white's pawn to g5. g5. Knight to a4. Knight takes on a4. B takes on a4. Queen to g3. g6. Reinforcing against f5. And according to the wise fish, the position would be equal. Let's return to the game. After white's pawn to e5, the game continues with lots of trades. D takes on e5. The best reply according to the engine. F takes on e5. Knight takes on e5. Bishop takes on a8. Rook takes on a8. Bishop to f4. Pinning the knight. Bishop to d6. Unpinning it. Knight from d takes on b5. With this move, Averbakh sacrifices his knight for one, possibly two pawns, and initiative. This is also the best move for white according to Master Fish. Black continues with pawn takes knight. Rook takes on d6. It was better for white, knight takes on b5. One possible continuation is queen takes on c2. Knight takes bishop. Knight to d3. Queen to d2. Queen takes queen. Rook takes queen. Knight takes bishop. Rook takes knight. And the position would be equal. Let's return to the game. After rook takes on d6, the game continues. Queen takes on d6. Bishop takes on e5. Observe this position carefully. Materially, white is now 2 pawns down. But Averbakh has a lot of activity on the king side. Spassky's queen and his b5 pawn are under threat now. White has other threats too, but I will mention them only in the next video. Black will have to move his queen now, but to where? I chose 4 candidate moves here. Queen to c5 or b6. Trying to defend the b5 pawn. And queen to e7 or d8. Giving up the pawn. Only one of these is the right move according to Stockfish. The other 3 moves would bring advantage for white. In the actual game, Spassky chose the right move, and managed to keep the game equal. Which one would you choose? Where should Her Majesty go? Did you like this game? I hope you enjoyed this video. Please support our channel by liking and subscribing. It will help us to make more content like this. I will continue to narrate this game in the next video. See you in part 2. Goodbye.